Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Sorry about that. We had a little technical difficulty working with that new camera gear. Still working the bugs out on that. But yeah, as I was saying, choosing a neutral ground, a neutral standing ground, and as everybody knows to pick up whenever we left off. The thought process of where we going, where we at, what we're about, what we're doing, coming into that energy, as you coming in, drive that I share, of course. If your perception is still based upon oppression, things at this level, things of a certain nature. If your perception is still, if your mindset and your subconscious is based upon the perception at that certain level, then everything you do that you project will be projected from that same space. So if we continue in this mindset of what you've been doing, what you've been about, what you've been around, how you've been around certain things, how you've been around certain environments, being in that environment without allowing the destruction, without allowing that destruction, without allowing that it to change, without allowing that shift to happen, all you're doing, you don't get the same exact result in the same exact space. That's like if I sat here and spent most of my time, it's not for me in my space as a teacher. Whenever I bring information to the surface, my job is to remove the spookism. My job is to remove the spookism, that spookism mindset, that the mantra of spookism and the mysticism from behind to get to the science, to unlock your scientific mind or your occult mind, unlocking the hidden culture, which is your subconscious, which is that hidden culture, the hidden self, that side that's not being able to be seen. We're bringing things into the light at a dramatic rate. So as things are happening at that nature, two things, fear and love, like the aspect that, fear and love can't exist in the same space. Fear and love can't exist in the same space. That ideology that's going along when I broke down in the podcast this week about what's in that bag. What is in your bag? What has been programmed in the presets that have been preset based on your identity no longer can hold weight into your intuitive mind, or you going into your intuitive self. You can't unlock your new self. You can't unlock your new self going with the old paradigm. I can't go forward being me in the aspect of providing shadow work, providing the teachings, providing those sessions with the old mindset and the old mentality. It won't work that way, because all I'll be doing is generating from a place of hurt. I'll be generating from a place of trauma. I have to first step out of that trauma, the perception of the intellect, what was gathered in the intellectual property of the trauma, to understand myself at a higher level. I must first shift into that death. I must shift through the door of dark to understand more knowledge. I cannot stream what we don't understand is we're the only ones that can go to that level. You being where you're at in your mentality, your mental, everything that you're doing, everything that you're about, everything that you're adjusting to, that is under that. This is under the thought process. This is under the mindset of you can't dwell in both houses. You can't dwell in both spaces. You cannot dwell in the hurt and then talk about love. You cannot dwell in fear and then talk about love and talk about happiness and humanity. You can, but all you're going to be doing is projecting from that same perception. You're going to project from that same illusion that you just came from. I don't project from that illusion. I'm aware of what's happening at this level. I'm aware of what's happening in that space. And that's cool, that's fine, that's dandy. But in order for me to fix anything, put everything into its space, put everything where it needs to be, I have to allow the destruction of that space. The light that's been sustained in that space must be destroyed. That light has been long burnt out. Everything that is under that light is your power source that is streaming through it. Take it like this. Everything, we understand that we were the originals, therefore we created everything. We created everything. Everything at this level is a byproduct of us shifting away from it. So take something such as rap music. You can take music, you can take dance, you can take fashion, take whatever we have done. All right. Take that aspect. That's that cardinal aspect. Take that cardinal part. When you step away from it and it's not being used, that's like take the beginning of hip hop. Take the beginning of hip hop rap music. They were putting paint on wax. At a certain point in time, they weren't talking about the same pain because they weren't going through the same thing. You talk about what you speak on, what you are. You speak on what's going on in that real time. Capsulating it, putting on wax, putting it in real time. That mindset then shifted to, well, we could talk about this, this, and this. We could talk about cars, clothes, all of these things that we're getting. We don't have them yet. We're speaking into existence. So take that aspect and look at you change the perception of your reality, and you change your perception based on what was in that space. So that was that alchemy. You took the alchemy and you created from that space and you projected what you were going to. That's the same aspect of where we're at now. You're taking yourself out of the aspects of what you were, where you were at, where you were situated at, and you're coming into a new space. Here's the ideal about coming into this new space that we're walking into. As we're coming into this new space, as we're coming into this shift of the paradigm, as we're coming into this shift, the old shit has to go away. If I went into the hood, for example, if I went into the hood and I gave them a new jungle gym, I upgraded all of the buildings, brought everything up to code and above standard, that doesn't matter. Just because I changed, just because I projected from my perception what it can look like, what it can be in that space, the perception of others within that space are going to only project where they've already came from. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's like you just put on another mask. You put on another coat of paint. You put on this mask. You have to become, and I cannot stress this enough, you have to become uncomfortable. You have to become comfortable in the discomfort. You have to be comfortable in the discomfort. At this point in time, there is no becoming neutral, because this is what happens when you're neutral. When you're neutral in a situation that's going on, all you're doing is sitting back and you're promoting the behavior without you even to say anything. When you go into this states of this mindset of based on a neutral position, you're choosing a side. So you chose, I don't want to be on that side. I don't want to be on that side. I'm going to choose to be neutral. I don't want nothing to do with any of this. All you're doing is projecting your perception of, if I leave it alone, it'll change itself. Yeah, it's going to change itself. Everything's going to flow the way it needs to flow, but you're not learning anything. You're putting yourself in an aspect being locked in time. Being neutral is being locked in time. We are stepping out of the mindset of being locked in time. We're outside of being locked in time. We're outside of that human thought. The human thought, the hope, the belief, all of these old narratives are falling apart. They no longer hold a balance, or the balance in those accounts are no longer of any worth to us, being at the level that we're at. When you say that you're something, whenever you speak upon something, so if I speak as a god, I speak as a titan, I speak as an occultist, I speak as an alchemist, everything that's meant at that level in that space, that's what is going to challenge me. Walking into that space, as I talk about walking into that abyss, when you walk into that abyss, everything that you take in there is what's going to challenge you. All the luggage, all the baggage, all the bags that you claim, oppression and oppression, and Jesus ain't real, and you thumping on the Bible harder than the Bible thumping. Whenever you just think about it, just become common sense. You're thumping on the Bible harder than the Bible thumping. By sitting here trying to prove that something is not real, you're taking yourself out of the aspect of understanding that everything is true. Everything is true at its own parallel. Everything is true within its own probability and possibility, within its own realm. That's how everything was sustained at this level, is because everything at this level is true based on the perception and the knowledge and what's been taken in, based on the factoring of the fear, based on the factoring of the programming. So according to this old program, everything that exists in this space is true. This is what happens when you start changing your subconscious. When you start changing your subconscious mind, and you start reprogramming, you're turning that data into information that you now can use. When you take that aspect, the projection, what you project changes. It changes the light. Remember, light is information. So it changes. But if somebody else's perception is still within the old light, they haven't went through that phase of the darkness. They haven't been in an environment of the darkness. They haven't embraced that darkness into themselves, to learning themselves. Then it doesn't matter what you say, they can't get that light. I could pack this up, go sit in a church and have this lecture. And then the entire time I'm going to be battling uphill. I'm going to be battling someone else's perception. I'm going to be battling their perception. Since I'm battling their perception, I'm battling their ego. Everything that they project is going to be based upon their ego. What makes them feel good, what makes them feel safe. I'm taking them out of their safety. I'm taking them out of their safe space, their safe haven, what made them feel good. My whole process is not to make you feel good. My intention is not to primarily make you feel good. My intention is to make you think. That's the thought process, because the intention of my perception for myself is when someone speaks to me, I want them to make me think. I need to be in the thought process of thinking. Make me think. Make me think. Because this is what changes the perception of that reality. As you're shifting, as you're moving into your higher self, everything around you that was charged based off of your energy is going to shift. The truth of it is going to come out. We've all seen The Dark Knight. If you haven't seen The Dark Knight, I don't know what the hell you've been doing. But there's that scene when the Joker's saying they're just living by the rules. If there's no rules, they'll go into chaos. They'll go into their natural self. People around you are going into their natural selves. It's not that it's becoming visible. It's always been there. The only aspect that's no longer there is your projection, your energy, your light onto the system, your light into that area. So people have been doing what they've been doing the entire fucking time. That was similar to the shift whenever I was like, we don't need Trump in office. When Trump came into office, the true nature, because they were in a sense of comfort, came to the surface. That's what was needed. That aspect of Bobby Hemmett always broke that down. Whenever you saw if you look for Barack Obama to be anything other than a symbol of you coming into your rising, coming into yourself, it was mainly about Michelle, that feminine energy rising, showing itself, you were going to be upset. You have to take yourself out of the perception of shit's going to change on this physical level. At this realm, in this space, nothing is going to change or evolve at this level other than you. Nothing at this level is going to change or evolve other than you. You're going to go from being hanging around the robbers, hanging around killers, hanging around the robbers, so to speak, metaphorically and motherfucking very, very in the real aspect, to becoming the one that can be robbed inside that space. Because now you have something of value. I broke that down when I was talking about the podcast this week. And I've said that before. When you are no longer the one that is providing the entertainment or providing the currency for the entertainment, providing the bottles, providing the stories, providing all that negative shit, what do you become? You're no longer a victim. You're no longer a victim or a soldier of poverty or a soldier of that circumstance. Now you're on the other side. Whether you like it or not, you're on the other side. You are a reflection of the other side. Stepping into that zone, you're on the other side. This is what you must accept. Accept everything to learn and expect nothing to be what it is. So take the aspect of, for me, I'll give a story. We always put out that best story about me. I put out a story about myself. My perception of my mother, that my mother was my mother and the love of my mother. And then as I got older, there was things my mother did that were not something that I believe the mother should do, but it was I couldn't change my perception, and what I projected that's my mother. At the end of the day, it's my mother. Once I stepped out of that, I was able to see my mother for what she was. My mother's still a great mother. My mother has all of the basic instincts for what a mother is at this level. But stepping out of the space where I was at to be nurtured by that space, stepping out of that space, no longer need to be nurtured, I went to the other side. So I became a victim of the circumstance that my mother was used to feeding from, because I was no longer in that other space. My mother was still connected to, that's my son, got to do this, got to do that. But to the aspect, I can't do those things anymore, mother. I'm building my own thing. I'm doing my own shit over here. It goes into the same aspect to the people that are around you. People around you start off as, and we got a lot of shit to cover. We just doing a nice little hard copy over this. But people that are around you, as you shift and you're coming into your truer self and you're going around that truer energy of yourself, they have to look for something else. They have to look for another way to receive it. They only can do what is within their programming, what they've programmed themselves, what they've programmed into their identity and reinforced their identity with. So there's no honor amongst thieves. There's no honor in, they've already manipulated. They're in a space where morality and traditionalism and traditional human thought has already been manipulated. You're in a space where shit has already been manipulated, partially because of you coming into your consciousness, us coming into that awareness that has changed and shifted how everything moves at this space. Just you coming into your awareness and your consciousness shifts everything in your fucking space. Shifts everything. So what do you expect to happen? Nothing. You must accept what is coming. You must accept what is coming into that. You must accept what's coming into that transitionary period. Nothing is going to be the same. I was talking about it earlier. Right now, where I'm at, they're in phase 2 of opening up restaurants and opening up shops and beauty nail salons, but they're giving you a perception of things are going back to normal, but they're still projecting from the original space. They're still projecting from the COVID-19 shit. So they're still implementing the rules and the laws and the regulations that are still within the space of the COVID-19. But the space can't stabilize. Once you start removing shit and trying to put shit back in to where it went, it doesn't go back to that same space. That's like if I was sitting in and this is a large shirt, if I cannot fit a large, I needed a 2X. Like 5 years ago, I needed a 2X shirt. I couldn't put on that same 2X shirt to be baggy. It wouldn't fit. You don't fit within this space anymore. For me, on one thing, my job called me and sent me a text talking about we're going to put you back on the schedule. Let us know when you can work. I kindly declined. Because I've come too far in this new space that I've created for myself to go back. I cannot go back to what was then. That's one thing that we have to change in ourselves. That is the most important part. You're not going back to the day of the pyramids. You're not going back to the days of Black Wall Streets. You're not going back to those days. Those days no longer exist. They happened already. The only way to go back to those days is to implement based under that same base. Go back into that implication of that original mind setting. No going back. We're building to go to somewhere further than this. You're coming into true selfishness. The end prefix of selfish is ish, is to know or to become. The first part being self. So myself is to be known and to become. That's what selfish means. That aspect of you being real selfish. The definition does not match. The definition based on the feeling does not match what it actually is. That's how we got to start seeing this shit. The definition of what really is, the definition that you've been given based on feeling, on emotion and belief is not matching. That's the contradiction. Remember, when you go into that occult, when you are studying based onto the occult, you are looking for the contradictions. Look at something simple as the death rate, their mortality rate, the Tamahu and everything at this level's mortality rate. You can group them all together. The mortality rate is higher than their birth rate. They're dying faster than they can be. They're dying faster than they can be reproduced, because the same aspects of light that used to produce them no longer sustain. So you can talk about wanting to go kill somebody off and go get guns and do all this shit. You're just falling back into the old paradigm. I'm not saying don't get guns. I'm not saying don't get yourself armed and learn how to do that. I'm taking it to the aspect of higher. That's your last defense. Your first defense is your own mind. Your first defense has always been your own mind. But if your perception in your old mind is still based upon fear, oppression, they run this and they run that, but you have the information in your head, you have the data in your mind, you've read the books, you have all of this literature saying that you were the originator, they were created, down to the mountains that they were put in, you created. You see how your subconscious mind can't take in the new information? It can't take in anything new under that new perception. You can, no matter how much of this you read, how many ankhs you put on, how many crystals you put on, if you're still in the old mindset, you can't do shit with the new shit. You can't do nothing with the new tech. All this new technology, you ain't upgraded to this shit yet, because you still stuck on, we built the pyramids. We built the pyramids. We invented fire. We invented this. That's still sustained. What you should be taking from that, and what I take from every bit of information that I gather and I grasp to, what I take from it is the information and learn, how did they do that? How did we do that? But you have to understand that the level that we're going back to is based on that old technology. That technology is advanced past its time for them. When you get stuck in that aspect of time, they can give you the virus, the COVID-19, and then tell you to put on a mask, and go tell you to put on gloves and a mask. And on the box, it says this mask does not protect from any fucking virus. You need a certain mask. But following into the line of the footsteps of the ignorance, the blissful ignorance, you got motherfuckers out here making masks that do not protect from anything. It's not equipped to protect from anything. So since you're so busy trying to submit to the attributes of the ideal in order to survive, you're not learning anything. There hasn't been, and I looked up the information, there hasn't been one crackhead, one homeless person in the area where I'm at that has suffered or been in the hospital or died from COVID-19. Everybody that has died from the COVID-19 outbreak had a predisposed illness or something else wrong with them. But that went over everybody's head when they said they're going to mark everything up as COVID-19. Because they understand intellectually that it's numbers. That's all it is numbers. All this shit translates down into numbers and frequencies. So if I keep you on that lower frequency and that lower vibration, it doesn't matter what somebody else tells me. My projection is, no matter what I'm projecting from my abundance. I'm projecting from the intention of abundance. I'm projecting from my strength and my wealth. If my mindset's still in the same space, I'm only going to get the perception of the same shit. Cause and effect. You stuck in a conflict. That uncomfortable feeling you get when you're doing something, you got to do that shit. That uncomfortable feeling you get when you are in a space and it's unfamiliar to you, but it's in an aspect of challenging you to learn it, that's what you're going for. That's what intelligence is. That's what knowledge is. Knowledge is not something that I can tell you that you already know. You can sit here, I can sit here and tell you about, I can sit here and regurgitate a bunch of information. And I can get a bunch of views based on regurgitated information. Damn, he's saying some deep shit. But the real depth, the real adept going into depth is applying what you have learned into the space where you are at and you are graduating to. So it does me no good to speak upon shit that's already been in play and it's going under. Once you're able to step out of that, you see people, you see things for how they actually are and what the whole basis of what it is. Study all and follow none. When you have that mindset of studying all and following none, you can look at everything as information. You look at everything as knowledge. You look at everything as something that you can absorb. If it resonates with you, absorb it, use it, and apply it in real time. If it doesn't, then you leave it over where it's at. That's the aspect of changing your perception. So when you start projecting your light, it's not coming from a dim source. It's coming from internal. You're still projecting from the external source. You're still projecting from the eye of the slave. You're still projecting from the eye of the ancestor. You're still projecting from these spaces that are sustaining the light within this level. That's why this level still exists. That's why the distraction still can get to you. That's why someone can get shot and you'll sit there and be like, oh my God, someone else got shot. They keep killing our babies. Your intention, your attention, what's gathering your attention, especially during this every time a retrograde happens, Mercury and Jupiter are in retrograde, I believe. Everything is intensifying during a retrograde. So the things that are naturally happen within inside you that you have not worked on are going to be intensified and reflected upon the surface. So the things that make you uncomfortable, the things that put you in discontent, the things that make your skin crawl are going to be the things that are going to challenge you, because you're still trying to carry those things into the new space. You're still trying to carry the original objectives and paradigms into a new space that doesn't exist within the new space. It doesn't. It's not going to go there. It won't fit. No matter how much you try to make it fit, that shit ain't going to fit. You're trying to walk in a size 6 shoe when you actually. I can't walk in a size 6 shoe when I wear a size fucking 13. It won't fit. It's the projection is different. When you're stepping into this new space, you must allow everything to fall apart as it needs to fall apart. That's the one thing that a lot of people get scared of, is allowing things to fall apart. Things must fall apart. Things must decay. Things must disintegrate. Things must be destroyed in order for your new energy to cycle through your new higher filters and conduits. You can't use the same, I can't use the same filter system that I used in my lower self, my lower frequencies, because it's going to distort my light. I can't go into old spaces with this energy and my power, and because you're going into a space and you going into that space, that old space that's of the old you, your light distorts that space. Your energy distorts that space. Because before, when you were in the programming, when you were in that sleep phase, the light influenced, the energy in the space influenced you. The energy inside that space influenced you. The light of Jesus influenced you. The light that your mother first taught you, the things that you were taught in the environment that you were in, it influenced you. You're going from being the influenced to the influencer. Everything that's supposed to be at that level that needs that influence is going to be at that space. Everything you need is going to be at the space where it needs to be. So it's time to let go of the old shit. The old paradigm, the old mindset, that shit does not work. The old ways that you used to think, they do not work. I had a conversation with my brother earlier this week, and I was telling him about all the things that I'm doing. He's like, yo, bro, you was on a whole different wavelength right now. Like, you moving at a whole different wavelength. That's something that, and having that conversation, I don't need the validation of it, because I already know it was at the wavelength. But for him to acknowledge that opens him up to this wavelength. And now that seed is planted, it's up to him to nurture that, to gain what he needs to gain to nurture that seed. That's what it means by planting that seed. You can't eat from the fucking plant, the seed, the day that you plant it. You got to allow it to do what it needs to do. You got to allow that catastrophe that's going to happen, going out of that being bad. Catastrophe is fucking great on the higher sense. Manipulation is great on the higher sense. You stepping out of the realm of time, so you learn how to manipulate outside of the realm of time. That is the aspect of changing your perception. The perception of me to my mother is the exact same. The perception to my pops, the perception to aunts, uncles, and family members and people I used to deal with is the exact same. At this point, for me, the light that I now project and I hold and I'm armed with, my energy that I'm armed with, they have to get to know me all over again. This is how they get to learn, but this is how things get to learn you all over again. It was already there. It was already implemented. The same time you came down and your ego came down, your ego was charged up to mask your soul, to mask you. Everything that needed to come down came down at the same exact time. That's why that table of contents, that is that tree of life, you go through death into the Quilloth, that tree of death, the tree of knowledge. You got to go through death to get to this tree. You see how everything on this level is a mirror image of this. You can't have this knowledge without the intellectual properties that have become life. So my inside, my inner, the knowledge that I've taken in, the data that I've taken in and turned into information, turned into light that I now project into this body, this automaton, now projects on the outside. So my presence, my physical presence has changed. My physical, everything that's my physicalities have changed. Everything about me has changed on that level into that notion. Because my perception has sharpened and been heightened. So what I project is going to be heightened. That's something that you have to become comfortable with. That discomfort. Everybody ain't going where you about to go. Everybody's not meant to come where you coming. You can put everybody in the same fucking car, but everybody can't come through the same door that you're going through. That's what we have to let go of based on that aspect of unity. We have to remove the aspect, that program of unity on the physical, and understand that that's the unity based on the mind. And just like if you plant a seed of knowledge into somebody's head, in a way it germinated and pollinated into your mind, you have to understand that there were certain aspects within that space that shifted the way that they saw things and the way that things happened for them. Because if you do not do this, you leave yourself to be laid to waste, to be fed upon within that space. You're going to be tired for no fucking reason. You're going to be in a space and you're going to be in that space and be tired your entire fucking time. Nothing comes through my door, this door to my apartment, that is not invited in. Nothing can come through that door that is not invited in. Based on my frequency, based on my vibration, based on my level of energy, based on the things that are of me. The only things that are in this space are reflections of me. It's something for me to learn from. It's something for me to teach. It's something to learn and to teach. When you're in that space, when you're in that mindset, you are unstoppable. That's the unstoppableness. That's that unstoppableness. Oh, and Bobby Hemmett broke down that armor that activates your melanin, activates within you, and it gives you that shield. You need to be seen as a monster to the ones that do not understand. The ones that are fearful of the dark, you become a monster. I've become a monster to many. But I can be a saint to all. That aspect of you shifting yourself into this new paradigm. The old shit is not going to work anymore. The old thought processes, the old human thought is not going to work in a God level mindset. I can't tell a dog, if you ask a dog what it thinks, all a dog can think is its house can be made out of bones or shit based on the level of a dog. because it's a dog. You can't move in this space as a human because this isn't a space for humans. The mind, the psyche is not strong enough to be at this level. The psyche has been weakened. The soul has been put under filters that refract light from it in a sense of being absorbed. The aspect of how your soul, when you're shifting your energy and learn how to work with your energy from within through your mantras into your disciplines, it changes how your energy cycles. As your energy first cycles, as you're coming into that first level of awareness and then into your enlightenment, your awakened phase, as you're going through these phases, the old shit is coming up. The old shit is being shown. You got to go through that process. A lot of people that I've had consultations with, they try so hard to, I'm ready to turn my third eyes on and I want to get to the next levels. But then as I'm having these conversations with them and given the classes to them, it's always the same thing. They want to jump past the heart. They want to start speaking. They want to start whatever information they take in, they want to regurgitate and they want to put it out there. They want to put out content. They're putting out content based on ego because their ego is taking the, if I don't say this, then I'm letting my people down. You ain't letting nobody down but your fucking self. That's what you are telling yourself every time. I'm letting my people down. How are you letting your people down? You must first let yourself down. How can you help your people? By first helping yourself. You have to become selfish and unified in your temple, your space where your God dwells, your God, your goddess dwells, in order to allow that to be projected outside of you. Your perception has to change. You have to step out of this thought process of being afraid to be what you need to be at the level where you're at. And what you'll start to see is you're going to see things for exactly how they are. I haven't had conversations with a lot of my family members based upon they're still within the old paradigm. They're still within the same old space. What they needed me for then, I no longer consciously provide to them. So I don't provide what I used to provide. So what they truly want within that intent, within under all of that shit being built on top of it, that's what they're truly going to go for. When you put yourself in a space, when you're put into this space, this mindset, the reality of yourself, as you start seeing the truth of yourself, the truth of others comes to the surface. I remember when I first came back down here, I was getting myself on my feet. And I remember I was having a conversation and my brother was out here doing check fraud and all that shit. I never paid attention to it because I was never in the space for it to happen to me. So my perception was, that's my brother, he wouldn't do it to me. I got comfortable and complacent in that space. I couldn't explain it then, I can explain it now. I got so angry at the fact that my brother, it wasn't the fact that my brother did it because he's been doing it. It was the fact that he did it to me. How did I allow him to do it to me? It's because I became comfortable. That's family and never do this. It's these old narratives that have been programmed into your mind. Family and never do this. Friends never do this. So if a family member does something to you that discredits the definition of family, are they still family? If a friend does something that brings discredit to the friendship aspect, are they still your friend? These are these lines that have become blurred based on traditionalism and morality. These have become blurred based on the old perceptions, and we're still projecting from the same old space. So going back to that story. So my brother did his thing, did that. I remember the first person I went and talked to my moms. I had a conversation with my moms. The first thing my mom said was, don't be mad at your brother. He called me and said he was sorry. My whole mindset was, what's he sorry for? In order for her to say sorry, that means she already knew it was happening. And the reason that she knew it was happening because she was benefiting from him doing it. Because she didn't know where it was coming from until they came too close to home. You don't know something's going on until you're able to look at it from the outside. I was upset for a little bit, but my mindset was like, I can't be upset. It's going to fuck up my mindset, what I'm doing now. I'm on a good path. This comes with the good. This comes with me going into this space. Me shifting myself into the space of coming into my awareness, coming into my consciousness. I had to allow those things to happen. That shit has to happen. That shows you exactly what that is. They can't get it one way, they're going to get it another way. They ain't getting it from me. I've learned how to feed from that energy, from that space, not going into that area, not going into that mindset. Because I could have easily went the low life route and went and put hands on my brother, had someone go put hands on my brother, do some shit like that. Instead, I was like, wait, I got a lawyer now. My lawyer's defined to handle that type of shit for me. It's going to cost me some money. All right, cool. Let me get that done. I learned how to, that's in an unconscious mindset. I learned how to project what was created for that space. As you're coming in, when you're coming into your higher self and you're projecting yourself into your higher space, like I said before, shit that used to fucking fall into play, make you feel good about certain things. You can be the best of what you are to somebody. Always try to provide that positive energy. Always try to provide that positive flow. Always try to provide this positivity to them. Here's the reality of the shit. If they're still within the same space of perceptions that they're victims and they're hurt and the world doesn't love them and nobody cares about them, every time you go into that space with your energy and your high energy, you want to go in there and you want to drop knowledge, your energy is feeding that space. Remember, this is the realm to be fed upon. So your energy is feeding that space. So your energy, it doesn't matter what you're projecting out there, that energy itself is now formatting itself into that space. They're learning how to use what they can get from it. So they're going to bring you into that space and they're going to learn how to feed from it. Because it's essential for you to grow. Growth, evolution, elevating is always inevitable. Change is inevitable. Your choice to elevate and evolve yourself and take yourself to the next level, that's totally up to you. You can't take that old paradigm to that new space. So if I go into a space, I take it like this. If I go into a space around people that I'm wise enough to understand I'm not like others. I'm confident enough now to understand I'm not like others. But I'm humble to the fact that I've been gifted and I gifted myself and I removed the handicap that makes me not like them. Removing that handicap from myself changes my perception and brings me into understanding to be able to project as I need to project myself into that space. Move my light into that space. Where I got to be here for these people and I got to help this person, I got to help this person, I got to help this person. Because in that aspect, I didn't have help and no one was around me at that point in time. Now I seem cold to them because I'm providing them knowledge. I'm putting in the same energy, just I'm putting in a different energy, the same energy in a different light, but it's in a different light. It's a light that they can't see. It's a light that they cannot absorb. Because the light that they were used to absorbing was money. The light that they were used to absorbing was me being on that same wavelength as them. So they can't absorb it because I'm no longer on that wavelength. I'm not on that frequency. That's where you're at now. That's why everything's falling into place as it's falling into place, and it seems like shit's falling apart. It's gonna fall apart. Shit's gonna fall apart. When shit's set up, motherfuckers leaving, motherfuckers going across the world doing whatever they're doing, they're removing themselves from the original power source. So since that wall, that barrier that you have put up, you come into your higher self, you have those new filters, they only know how to get it from the same way that they used to get it. You've become a target in the space. You've always been a target, but you didn't know why. So since you're coming into the awareness in your consciousness, now you're starting to understand why. Why their perception is to make you 3/5. Why being 3/5 of a human made sense? Because you're only 3/5 of a human. Because your body, your body is only 3/5 of what you actually are. They told it to you based on fear, and they gave it to you based on the intellectual sense, and they discredited your emotions and you being anything, not understanding that, yeah, I am 3/5 of a human. I am 3/5 of a human. Because I'm a god. I am the savage. You naturally are going to become the savage of your area because you understand what destruction does. I understand what destruction is. Destruction is needed. The hatred is needed. That energy is needed to step through and push through what has been crystallized. Breaking through that glass ceiling that lens that you thought was love. That doesn't change the love of myself. My love of myself is still intact. And since the love of myself and the understanding of myself is still intact, everything that's against what the love of myself and the reflection of my true self must be destroyed. So when my light comes out, it destroys things. The light is meant to destroy, not sustain. From the dark comes new light. As long as you are generated from the dark, your true self, your soul, that fire that's within you, and you're stimulating from that energy, your intelligence from that level, everything else outside of you that comes into that light becomes its true self. I was thinking about it the other day, and I think I said it on the podcast either last week or this week, but it was the mark of Cain. And I remember the first time I thought about it 4 or 5 years ago, I was still trying to make use of the information. I was still coming into that aspect of information. And when they said the mark of Cain made their bodies white and made their bodies pale, made their bodies white, and they would be able to be seen and they never could die. I was like, so what color were they before then? So that's what stimulated that. That thought stimulated about original being black and all of that aspect. But now as I go back to that information, I'm able to recycle back through it. The mark of Cain is ego. Let's take that thought into your mind. The mark of Cain is ego. The ego can never die based on the aspects of humanity, based on the aspects of morality and traditionalism. If your mindset is if your mind program is thou shalt not kill, but we understand in the occult that you must die before you die. If the fundamental thought process under being oppressed is thou shalt not kill and thou shalt not do any of these things, that's what weighs on your heart. Fundamentally, you are now projecting what you cannot kill. You are projecting through what you cannot kill because you believe that killing is wrong. I was watching hell was I watching? Can't remember what I was watching, but I'm gonna get back to that. But you take that aspect, we understand that transition, getting into that death is knowledge being one to that one, understanding the synonymous of life and death are one, they're intertwined. The humanity, the darkness, which is broken down in the Gnostic text, is actually broken down in a couple books. I'm gonna go grab that book in a little bit. But you take in that aspect, what you're at this level, this darkness, that humanity is darkness. Humanity is life, humanity is darkness. Death is knowledge. Every day that you do not live, every day that you live, every day that you learn is a day that you live. So every day that you're actually dying, you're killing off your ignorance in order to live. So what are you getting upset with? Trying to stay comfortable within a space, trying to hold things within your space that no longer can gravitate towards you because you know the truth of them. It's the acceptance of the truth and the characteristics and the behaviors of what's been around you the entire time. You're going to hear things like, you've been wanting this. You're going to be hearing things, you've been wanting this entire time. You've been wanting this. That's what you, this is this. That's based on the perception. When a person can no longer, when an entity or an energy can no longer feed from you in the way that it used to feed from you, it must bring you into the imbalance that it is in. Because unconsciously, you were already in an imbalance. Your mind was already in imbalance. Your body was already in an imbalance. The more that you become imbalanced, the harder it is for this thing to circumvent itself and connect to you. So you start seeing it for what it really is. It no longer has the life line that is your energy going into it. It no longer has the lifeline, the life alert. It can't hit that life alert button on its chest and you come running to it. That's a natural motion. You're allowing shit to, that gap is being created. The gap between what we call the dead, the unconscious, the sleep, that gap has been there. But you going back through the river Styx to go back into the land of the living, the land of the dead, instead of you sitting over here, this is the aspect that you're switching your mind around. My ancestors are not dead. My ancestors lived through me. Therefore, I'm living. Therefore, my ancestors are living. They're in the land of the living. Therefore, I live. Therefore, my ancestors live. You can't, no one could argue that based on my intelligence of me understanding why that is. My perception my perception and my understanding and my genius being stimulating and creating my intelligence and what I stand on, what I project is always life. But to the ears of somebody that cannot, to the ears and to the eyes of that physical mindset, they can't take that in. They're not willing. You have to die to get to this view. There's a level of removing from that fear aspect that is going to change your entire paradigm of how you speak, when you speak, where you speak, and how you move. Because everything is shifting. Shit ain't lit up the way it used to lit up anymore. I can go to my mother's house, and my mother's house is not the same frequency that I used to be on. So after about 15, 20 minutes of being in my mother's space, I start getting antsy. I start getting anxious. I start getting jittery because that space is not feeding me. I can't feed from that space in any other way. That's that aspect that when you go into a certain space and it's dead to you, you're doing what you're doing. You're only doing a repeat of what the fuck you did when you came down here in the first place. Going back to sleep. It's like you just got hit, like you getting hit by stupid rays. You feel like something's out of place. You feel like something's not working. You feel like something's not that's just, it doesn't feel right. You feel constricted in that space. That's the entire aspect of looking outside of you right now. We've had a couple of months to either to make a choice. I had 27 days last in May, or was it April? I had 27 days to make the decision on what I was going to go forward with. In those 27 days, I finalized and launched the website. I finalized and went forward with the equipment for going to the next phase of doing doing the visuals for the podcast. I changed my perception in order for me to further project at this level. I know I had to put in the devices to fit that perception, that quality. So my space changed. My mindset had long changed. So when it came time to receive what I needed to receive, those ingredients, they were right in reach. There's no fear to continue moving forward. Now, as you're doing this, as you're moving forward, things always seem to like they're getting dimmer or getting worse. So there's going to be like a bunch of shit happening. But that's when you're making that decision whether you're going to go through with it, how you're going to move through with it. It's also going to put you to the aspect of what you're going to start realizing what you're getting upset with in that mindset or that mind frame is stuff that you already were supposed to be taking care of. That's what a retrograde does. It brings things to the surface for you to, I should have been did that, and I should have been did that. It's a perfect time for me to get closure on this. It's a perfect time for me to get what I need from that. This is perfect timing, divine timing, divine alignment. Everything that's coming into your life is showing you exactly why you don't need to be around certain shit. That sense of being a hermit. I remember Bobby Hemming always talk about the state of Black people. They seem to get more and more insane. Is based on the reflection of you becoming more and more insane from the highest sense. That sense of insanity, you cannot be at this level. You cannot be in this realm and not be crazy by the definition of what crazy is. You cannot be at this level and not be a savage, being what the definition of savage is. I am a savage. Every single day, I'm looking for something to destroy so I can build. I'm destroying what's no longer organic to my is not no longer organic to my nature in order to build something that's sustainable of my nature, that sustains me. As I do this, the things that need the conduits and the entities that are supposed to be in that place, they're playing on that wavelength in that playing field, they're there. So, because a long time ago, I took away the perception of worrying and the perception of being under some shit and being oppressed and being shut down. Can't nothing shut me down unless I allow it to shut me down. Can nothing hurt me unless I unless I give it the fucking code to my self-destruction. Everything that you do, whenever you're telling yourself these motherfuckers to destroy you and kill you, you're giving them the keys. You're giving them the key codes to your self-destruct button. Because the ultimate goal is to die before you die. Die as you're gaining your information and putting in your work. Once you remove that worry, it's one of the big things that I teach when I start doing sessions with people. Once you remove that worry, there's a sense of truly being confident and being untouchable. Every time, I remember in the beginning when I was doing a lot of research, I was reading the books, I was reading on voodoo and hoodoo and all of the arts, the dark arts, as they call them. I remember the perception of it is usually you got to be careful because somebody could put something on you when you studying that. That's if I'm serving that space. If I have no understanding when I go into a space, whatever I take into that space, that's what is being able to be used to get to me. Your auric field. I want to break down the auric field real quick. I got the I put that picture up on Instagram and I put the picture up on my Facebook feed. Put it up on my feeds. But understanding your auric field is one of the top things in understanding and moving forward. I don't need that no more. I got this picture. I'm gonna blow this up in my thing for the auric field. 6 typical energy problems, and we're gonna go count it. We're gonna go clockwise. I might just go down on each side. Rips in your aura. We'll look at rips in your aura. Often found over areas where extended emotional strain or physical trauma has been stored. Creates significant energy loss and enables negative attachments, psychic vulnerabilities, which exacerbates energy loss. You may experience emotional and physical pains that are not your own. Self-help, the best ways to do it is self-help, saltwater bath, and or a spiritual bath, and a sweep of your auric field with a crystal quartz. Real basic shit. Cords of attachment. Energetic cords between you and another person, place or object that create an energy leak, depleting energy cords from your aura, chakras, and or other mediums. Energy debris, often felt or sensed as static, a gritty, dirty dirt in the aura or the body that can feel as if the energy is scattered and underground or hampered in the stagnant sense. Holes in your aura, similar to rips in the aura, except the energy loss of vulnerability to negativity influences tend to be much greater, and since there's a pocket or a vortex of energy pouring out. Stagnant energy, that's energy backed up, is heavy and dense, it slows down, blocks energy flow. Since there's a thick, dense, heavy pockets of energy. That's when I break down like the back, when you have that back pain, you have the shoulder pain, neck pain, arm pain. When you're having them pains in your body, that's because that's similar to like whenever you get a massage and they move, the blood start flowing to that area when your shit went to sleep. That's the aspect of that stagnant energy. And in energy sludge, this feels like a thick and sticky black oil or sludge. The energy feels heavy, dense, and extremely sluggish. This is all about your energy and all going to your energy. As you're repairing yourself, as you're getting in tune with your true self, that old auric field is shedding. So as you're coming into that nuance of yourself, when you understand the name of that fucking book, can't remember the name of the book right now. It's going to come to me in a second. But as you're shedding your old auric field, you're shedding your old self. That filter, your old aura, can no longer produce protection. It can no longer produce the protection that is needed for you to sustain moving into the new space. So that identity or your ego is attached to your old auric field. All of those rips, the nips, the sludge, the emptiness, that sludge you feel when you go to somebody's house for a little bit, when you go around certain people, those little rips, it feels like shit's being siphoned out of you because of your mother and whoever it is over here in this area. All of that stagnant energy, you go into a space that's stagnant and you keep. When I go to my mother's house, I start feeling anxious because it's a stagnant energy in that space. I cleaned my energy out of that space a long time ago. The old identity that I identified as no longer can interface with my new self. So being in that mindset, I can't go into old places or old environments because the energy is now stagnant. There's nothing moving in that space. TV on the same channel, still watching Love and Hip Hop, still watching the news, still watching the news, still appeasing to the distraction. So that energy is stagnant. So after about 15, 20 minutes, max, me being in any space that's stagnant to me, I feel like I got to stand up and go walk around. I got to walk outside and let the sun touch me or some shit. That's your body's natural reaction to telling you to get, that's your intuition telling you to leave out of that space. And I'm almost on autopilot when I'm in a space that I don't feel comfortable in. Because the discomfort at this level is challenging me to go back to where my energy is at. You can't keep going back to that same old shit. That same old song and dance about being oppression. That same old song and dance about Satanism and spookism. Those same spookism triggers. That's why motherfuckers are getting stuck in where they're getting stuck in right the fuck now. Because you still operating on old ass systems. That's why the pyramids still look great to you. That's why the pyramid still, oh my God, the pyramid and all this light. I can't trust anybody that is one side or the other. My natural defense shield comes up whenever somebody talks about light without dark and they talk about dark without light. My natural defense mechanism is a defense mechanism like, whoa, wait, I'm listening to you. If you tell me something new, it's going to filter through, but all the same old shit, it can't come through here. It's too low level of a light based on the spectrum that I'm able to see now. So anything based under, if a story starts with oppression now, because we religified oppression, anything under oppression became if it doesn't come from under the thought process of we used to struggle, we used to be oppressed, we're still oppressed, we're still slaves. So if it doesn't come in under that disguise that we talked about last week, you won't listen to it. If it doesn't have a sense of righteousness, you ain't gonna listen to it. Bobby Hemmett spent well over 20 fucking years giving you the aspects of reality, the aspects of what he was teaching. And it was all under the aspect of he was the cursing up a fucking storm. Taking that aspect of you're religifying religion. Religion simply means to bind. So if your fundamentals are against religion, within the fundamental of that level of being Christianity, Islam, whatever it may be, if they're denouncing religion based under the fundamental, the intellectual of religion is this, then your perspective on anything, understanding what is you're binding to, what is binded, the alchemical rhythm, that algorithm of what is you're bonded to transfers. And that shield now transfers from being over Jesus and Allah and being Jew to being over a Chemite or a Moor or a Mason. You just found something else for that to blanket over, that same filter. So anything that's of intelligence, anything that's going to come through and challenge this, that's destructive of this fundamental fabric that you've created over your head, that shit's scary as fuck. It becomes a monster. It's destroying the world that you knew what the fuck it was. You have to allow that shit to come through and destroy shit. You set in your mind, like if I set in my mind right now, and I've set this mind in my mind plenty of fucking time. I've set it in my mind for growing my client list, growing out more content, putting out more stuff, evolving and elevating to the levels to promote and do what I do. I've done this so many times in the physical sense of going through the ritual that when I go to sleep, when I go into the dream world, into the real world, the astral, when I go into the astral room and I start going off, I've built the spaces that are that in this physical representation come down is in here. There's a good show on Netflix called The Midnight Gospel. If you've not seen it, it's a great fucking show on Netflix. And it's going through the aspects of, it shows you every time he goes into his thing, like, what world am I going to go to today? And then he chooses a world, then he sticks his head into the vesica, sticks his head into that primordial portal vagina, sticks his head in, and then he's shot down into the next world to study and do his podcast. That's the aspect of what you're doing here. Every time I go to sleep, I'm thinking about clients. I'm not even thinking about clients. I'm having entire dreams about what I'm talking to with future clients that I haven't even seen yet. That shows me that the alignment where I'm at, I'm on the right path. There's nothing else. There's nothing coming up in my mentality, in my physical perception that is allowing me not to be able to project into that realm. I've pierced that veil. I've pierced that space. So since I've learned how to pierce that space and I'm in that space, everything that I do up there naturally fluctuates to down here. Getting out of that aspect of time, and you're getting into the aspect of understanding alignment. The more and more that you're going into the space that you're supposed to do, you got your head, you got that tunnel vision, you're doing the preventative maintenance, the more things fall into place as you need them to fall into place. Because you're projecting from that space. You're projecting from that space, and your perception is matching what you're projecting. So you can see it before anybody else sees it. I have that intuitive gift that I've worked on over and over and over, time and time again, life and life, after I'm going through the Akashic records, meditations and rituals, going through all of these rituals. I went through that space, so I see things for how the fuck they are. I can have a whole conversation with somebody and say, this is what you need to do, and this and this and this. And it's based on them taking it in the context of that light. And then after a while, they start seeing it because they continuously having a conversation with me. That's under that same thought process. Like, you don't want to be around me because I'm the type of motherfucker, like, everybody around me I got that Kevin Gates big general mentality. Everybody around me works. Everybody around me is putting in work to raise their position. They get into that bag. But we're taking it to that higher level. When I speak on this level, I'm talking about changing things within inside of yourself. So when that bag becomes natural in this physical in this physical space, you ain't got shit to fucking worry about. That's connected to that higher power source. You connected to your higher self. The longer that you put yourself into that perception that there's something needed outside of you to get you to your power source or to structure your power, based on saying, you went from praying to Jesus to praying to Oshun and praying to whatever. The way that you interface with him is different than how I interface with him. But since your mind's still stuck on the fundamentals of, I can never see myself doing this, that, or the third, you can't see the light that I'm giving you you can't see the light that's being given to you right there in your hand, what you need to do next, because you're not willing to feed from every space that's around you. I had a conversation with my little sister yesterday. Little late night consultation with my sister. and she was talking about her boyfriend's mother and how she perception is. Her perception of her, she can't read her, she can't read her, and she can't get a read on her. Me knowing my sister and how my sister is always very about getting information, finding information, breaking shit down, studying it, learning how to use everything that goes around her. My sister has that adaptability. In that situation of her having that adaptability, we having our conversation back and forth. And by the end of the conversation, everything that she said or she repeated back or she said to me, it wasn't the aspect of her not knowing, because she was very aware. She's very aware. She just didn't have the confidence to go through with it. And that's the thing that we fall under in our perception. I talked about that in the podcast this week. You can have everything that you need in front of you to move forward in any way that you need to move forward. But it takes that confidence in your knowing and standing in your truth and standing on your square in order to move forward with it. It is not based on it's not based on anything external to tell me anything less. And that's something that we have to get uncomfortable with, that aspect of understanding that the shit that you see, the shit that you know, the shit that you just know, the shit that you see, these abilities that you have are not meant for human eyes. They ain't meant for human eyes. That's the same aspect when you watch Lucifer, or you watch any show like, and Lucifer's brother, it was like, humans are meant to see divinity. That's the aspect of it. Your ability to see, your intuition, all of your clairvoyance is coming online. That's not meant for humanity. That's why somebody sits there. That's why I remember the biggest thing I had to get over was somebody was like, so you call yourself a god, show me some god-like shit. And their perception of what a god can do based on the fundamentals of what a god is, they were like, perform a miracle, do this, and do this, and do this. I was like, even if I were to do that, you couldn't even see it because your mind ain't even on the frequency to see that light. Your mind is not in the space. Your mindset even on the same wavelength to be able to even fucking see it. I would have to lower myself down to your level just to show you that. You got to come up here. A lot of the times we fall into this mindset of we continually keep going down to other people's levels and then getting hurt and then wondering why the fuck we get hurt. I got stabbed. Nigga, you went out into a dark alley where you know motherfuckers is robbing and killing, and you walked over there in the dark. Of course you gonna get fucking stabbed. You went into a space where the probability of getting stabbed is gonna happen. That's how we gotta start looking at this shit. You're going into these areas where the probability of something happening to you just on you being you is going to happen. That's the reality of that shit. You have to see that. Because if you're not seeing that, all you're doing is repeating the same old effects that got you into that level anyway. Sustaining the light. So if I sat here with the mindset and the narrative, if I sat here with a whole narrative and gave you 3 hours of why white people are evil, all I'm doing is reinforcing what the Tamahu needs. They need that attention. Do you know the last time I've seen, honestly, in all honest factoids, the last time I saw and was complacent to a white person? I just look at them and looking at them based on my offensive observation stance that I can now take. The way they speak to me is how I used to speak to them. Yes, sir. No, sir. Let's go ahead and get this and go on about your way, sir. Sorry, sir, for disturbing you this evening, sir. You start to see the script. You start to see the script. They're just following a script. Their natural mind, their natural behavior at this level in this space is to destroy things. They have an intellectual understanding that if I destroy this, I can rebuild it in my image. They're being their Lord, their Savior, that demiurge, that archon energy. Remember, when you read into the mythos in the text, it's building from what it thinks is above its head because it's blind. It can't see that light. It can't look up into the sun, so they damn near can't look at this sun god, this God of the sun. They can't bear witness. They can't bear and look at me. When you start understanding this, you start understanding certain motherfucking black people can't even look at you without squinting, without trying to say something that's intellectually or politically correct based upon a script based on that level of where they at. Most niggas only know how to talk about nigga shit, and outside of nigga shit, they want to tell you something about intellectually being, they want to give you some intellectual regurgitation about being fucking oppressed. I ain't been oppressed in over 3 years. I'm just throwing out the last 3 years. I have not been oppressed in any way, shape, or form. Nothing has oppressed me or shut me down or put me into a space of restriction that when it did come up, that shit didn't naturally that shit didn't naturally burn out. Because everything that's needed at this level is at this level. I don't need to create. I don't need to put anything. I don't need to bring anything up anymore or say anything, because I have the intelligence to be like, I can ask the questions to put holes into a thought. If it's a human thought, I can put holes in it. I have the compassion in the self. I have the compassion into myself to be able to put the holes into it. So if that and this, you need this, this, and this, it becomes a game. It's a fucking game. You're like, the last thing I saw something on Instagram, and they were talking about what the fuck's that nigga? They were talking about the Joe Biden. Joe Biden put out a video or an ad, and basically what he had said, what it boiled down to was, if you don't vote for him, you're not black. Things on a lower vibrational field do not operate on love, and they do not operate on love. They operate on lust and infatuation. They operate on caring. They operate on hope. They operate on wishing. They operate on praying. They operate on belief. Their belief, their hope, their wishing, everything based upon humanity is based off an intellectual concept that was already pre-designed for that space. Everything that they put their mind into is based on their that hope, that wishing, their belief, and their thoughts is all based off one intellectual piece of light. Phil Valentine broke down, I think it was like back in like 1994. I forgot the name of the lecture. I might even put it up on my page. In order for something to be sustained and to gravitate from that same light, it must come from that first generation seed. It must come from that same space and those same properties. So things around you, how it was birthed, it needs it to be replicated in that same way, shape. It needs to be replicated in that. It needs to be replicated under that same duress, the same emotional duress, the same anxiousness, the same fear, the same guilt. So if I take the aspect of going into the ABC store, we use the ABC store, the package store, the liquor store on the corner or wherever it may be. Every time you go into that space, it's always unnatural lighting, so you can see all the bottles. And you always see the same people. If I go in there on a Monday, I can guarantee I see the same person that was there on a Monday. I'll see him there on a Thursday. As long as everything is going according to a certain plan, niggas don't react. As long as everything is going according to a certain set of distinct presets, niggas don't react. Niggas sat back hoping and wishing, yeah, when the stimulus run out, man, you know they're going to open up the jobs and the jobs going to go back. Nothing is going back to what the fuck you thought it was. Because this showed two things. In stasis, two things are shown within a stasis. The stasis of an outbreak or a pandemic showed two things. It showed the ones that were willing to submit and the ones that will not submit. Which side you fell on is which side you fell on. The neutral that neutral paradigm in between of choosing, I ain't gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna sit back and let it happen. You're just promoting the wrong behavior. So you don't feel nothing because you're still stuck in giving a fuck. I can sit back and take no side, but I can learn from both sides. The duality. Everything is based upon duality. Everything is based upon duality. That up and down. The light and the dark. The reflection from the dark coming into that new light. So while everything was in stasis for myself, I built within that stasis. I got stronger with doing the podcast. I got stronger with getting equipment for the podcast. Creating in my space. So my physical space became the physical representation of my auric field. And then everything within it, in those layers, that layers to my soul, became what reflected out of what I'm reflecting out as. So my perception has changed. Therefore, my projection has changed. If your perception hasn't changed, your projection hasn't changed. How you take off is still going to land on the same shit. If my perception is to free black people, get black people from being slaves, and that's my perception of my reality, what I need to do. It don't matter what I take off from, my projection and my destination is always going to be in the same space. Black people ain't waking up enough. They ain't doing this. They ain't doing this. I can no longer see above the ceiling of my own creation. All I can see, I can come up to this height up here. This is where that peak of fear, where I'm supposed to break through and break that glass ceiling. I'm just going to slide back down on the other side and keep reflecting in this same space. Since I'm cycling in this same space, I'm becoming stagnant in this same space. Whatever sparks are coming out are causing rifts, and they're causing rips and tears. And when I'm slowing down that's where the sludge is coming. And when I'm going out over here, I'm still tethered to the same thought processes and ideals. So I'm still attached to these things. So they're the ones that get that energy from me. So I'm just keep going around in this same fucking cycle, feeding and doing nothing. Because I'm not willing to destroy that ceiling to see what the fuck is up there. There's a show called Solar Opposites on Hulu. It's from the co-creator Rick and Morty and some other dude. And there's an episode, I just watched the episode where they finally took on the Duke. They're in a wall. The aliens put them behind a wall. And they finally took on the Duke, and they saw how the Duke was always bringing in stuff. And it's called the land of before, the before world. And they were like, we need to tell our people that we can get out and we can go back to the before land and we can find a way to become bigger, become large and unshrink again. And then he killed Shorty and put the chair back in front of the hole that led to the real world, and then fed him the same seats about, as your leader, I'm going to make sure that we all understand that we are of this wall, we're of this space, and we're of this humanity, and the only way we can survive is with each other. Your perception can change. But if you're not willing to allow the things that happen when your perception changes of somebody, it can be shown right in front of your face. You're going to be second guessing yourself. You're going to set yourself up to be second guessing every single time. I'm second guessing this. I'm second guessing everything in my life for where it's standing at. You're second guessing things based on the old paradigms, based on your ego and your identity. I don't have to second guess anything. Things are going to fall into play as they need to fall into play based on what energy and what my awareness is at. If I give this my attention, then I'm not giving this my attention. But if I look at it all to study, all of it has my intention is now powered not by what has my attention, but my attention can now shift and be projected through what my intention is set upon. My mindset's not moving my mind isn't moving in the same wavelength that it used to move in when I first came into my consciousness. I'm no longer in the angry black man phase. Fuck everybody and fuck the racists and fuck all of this shit. My mind no longer operates within that space. My thought process, my identity no longer thinks within that space. I see the benefit in being around. I see the benefit when I go into whatever space I go into. I'm in that. I'm here for a reason. My reason isn't their reason, so I can move in and out. The aspect of, I remember I was thinking about my job, and when they sent me the text message and they gave me the phone call, they hit me up and they were like, "We're gonna put you back on the schedule. Let us know what days you can't work." I could have easily been like, "Well, I only can work 2 days a week." That would have been of no benefit to myself, because the way that my schedule and my agenda I put together for myself from Monday through Thursday, in order for me to submit to the lower, I got to sacrifice parts of my higher. The parts of my higher are part of my truest self, my love, the self-realization, the self-validation, my evaluations of myself is all in that higher. So for me to subject or sacrifice parts of my higher self to submit to get something from the lower end, that's that void or that tether to your unfulfillment. If I stay over here long enough, then maybe they might change. Nah. The only reason they won't change, the only reason they're not going to change is because you're enabling them not to. People are in your life that don't do shit and still don't do shit. It won't do shit. It won't be shit because they know that you'll always come around them and they not being shit having ass. The vulnerability or the ability to be open to yourself causes the reflection of others being open to you in true intent. If my intention is to be open and vulnerable to the knowledge, what it does to me, that power that when I invoke that energy and what it does to me being open to that in true intent to myself forces everybody that comes around me to come around me in true intent. So the place like my job, they will always need me more than I need them. Because my energy influences the space. Every time, and I peep this timeline. Every time I've left a job, that that space never went back to when I was there. Whether it was sales or it closed down or whatever it may be on that alignment, it never went back to being stable as when my energy was there. I didn't have the confidence in myself to understand that. But now that I have that confidence in myself, I can confidently say, I'm putting my energy into something higher. I'm putting my energy into my purpose. Because I'm not worried about wealth. I'm not worried about wealth. I'm not worried about prosperity and abundance, because I am prosperity and abundance. So wherever I go, abundance naturally follows. Wherever I go, my wealth naturally follows. Wherever I go, naturally, prosperity, wealth, abundance, the knowledge flows. Wherever I am at, I am the vehicle for that. I no longer got to let Jesus take the wheel. I no longer got to let Allah take the wheel. I don't need that to take the wheel because I am the fucking vehicle. I'm the vehicle, the wheel, the driver. It's like there's a picture, someone put a meme out and it said your spiritual awakening, and they had a hand over here, they had a hand back here, and they said, this is God, this is also God, this is also God, this is also God. You're the only one that controls everything around you. You're only as strong, things are only going to drive and move into a direction as strong as you are. Anything that ain't strong enough to be at that level is naturally going to fall off. It won't be in that space. You invite the vampires in. You invite them vampires in. You invite them energy draining ass negative motherfuckers into your house. You invite the wishing and hoping and praying motherfuckers into your life. Those are your jinns. You invite the sedity motherfucker in your life that is telling you that you got to have $1 million and have that nice car and have that nice house. And the only way you get it doing that, that's the archon that you let into your life. You let them in. You lit the energy in. You lit the jinn, you lit the vampire, you lit the archon, you lit those entities into your life because you created conduits of needed them at some point in time. And now that they no longer need you, now that you no longer need them the way that you used to need them, they have to come at you another way. You start realizing that they're below you. And that's humbling as hell. That's humble to your heart when you realize that that shit's beneath you. So the energy vampire relative that was in your life, or the energy vampire friend that was in your life, or the jinn that's always wishing and hoping and praying that was in your life, refracting and saying, I'm wishing, they're waiting for you to say, I wish too. I hope too. Man, yeah. They're waiting for you to make an agreement with them because you're reconnecting and attaching the bond back into your auric field. Your auric field then became too strong. Now they got to use underhanded techniques to get to you. They'll use underhanded techniques to make you mad. There's like somebody, that's like when my brother basically robbed me, I could have got upset and went down to his fucking level. Put hands on him, fought him, and all that shit. But nah. Got one better for you. I got a lawyer. My lawyer told me, my lawyer instructed me on everything I already thought about doing because I wasn't confident enough in it. I was scared to make certain moves. Lawyer was like, change your account number, call your bank, let them know about your account number. They'll change over your account number. They'll put a hold on your account. But before they put the hold onto your account, tell them that you're opening up another account and transfer all of your funds into that account. My lawyer gave me the paperwork. So when I presented it and faxed it over to my bank, they're like, okay, cool. You want to shut down this account, open up another account. All right, cool. We're going to transfer all of these funds into that account. And now we're going to lock this account. So if somebody tries to pull from it, that's how we can flag them. That's what you're doing now. You're leaving that bait out there. Because until you do this, the things that you felt that you needed to survive your identity or sustain your identity will stay in place. The only thing I need to do to get my fucking license is go pay the restoration fee, the processing fee, the reinstatement fee, then the renewal fee. That's all I gotta go pay to go get my license. That don't stop me from getting anywhere that I need to go. That's not holding me. I just know that when I do those things, I can do what I need to do next. But that's not stopping me from doing what I need to do next. You see, you put things in play to keep you sustaining within a level. But once you start vibrating and that tether starts getting real shaky, you start seeing it for what it actually was. Why it's there, why you need it there. And then your inner voice is going to reflect outside of you of people that are on your level. And this is how you find the motherfuckers that are on your level and not on your level. They're going to start reverberating or regurgitating back to you what you've already thought what you needed to do. And you're automatically going to look for solutions to achieve that. Start looking for the solutions. When you program your mind to look for solutions, you realize there's no oppression. Oppression doesn't exist. When you start programming your mind to understand looking for solutions, the perception for solution, you start projecting the solutions. That's the aspect of when I teach the visualization. But when I start teaching the visualization process of everything that's around me is already within my mind. The altar that sits across from me, that was already programmed into my mind. I knew exactly what I wanted, what I needed to set on there. I knew exactly what I needed to put on that one for the ancestors and the energy that I'm working with. I knew exactly what to put into that space. So when I naturally look up and I'm in an alpha moment and I see these two skulls looking at me, one light, one dark, they're both enshrined in gold. That's the instructions. You ain't seen Legion, you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I see that every time I look forward, I'm looking for a new skill. Every time I'm looking forward, I see that I need a new skill. When I look at my Anpu the Anpu statue on the altar up here, I know that in order to acquire that new skill, I'm gonna have to die. But I have no fear in death because I understand by my Baset sitting here that I'm protected in my spiritual journey. That's how you program yourself. So when I take that visualization that's in my mindset, now I can close my eyes. It don't matter where the fuck I'm at. If I'm walking forward, that vision is the first thing that pops into my mind because I've created that space within me that energy now cycles to. So everything that I can learn within a space, when I submit myself to the attributes of that ideal, the book Psychastria breaks that down. When I submit myself to the attributes of that ideal space, I become what I need to be in that space. So I become wealth. That's how you become your wealth. That's how you become your prosperity. That's how you become your abundance. That's how you become the knowledge. That's how you become infinite. That's how you become light. But you have to go into that darkness to understand that I can become the light. By me becoming my darkness, I become my own light. I become my own energy source. So everywhere I go, lined up exactly how it need to be lined up and is ready to go as I need it to go. I ain't got shit to fucking worry about. I ain't got to put my mindset in hustling. I got to hustle up to get a couple of dollars. Because when I get a couple of dollars, I set the tone. I'm hustling to get this car. So by the time I get the car, I'm not thinking about the maintenance. So my mindset is, when I get this car, I gotta make sure my mindset changes. This is a pre that's on the lower level. When I get this car, I gotta make sure when I get the car, I already understand maintenance. So the maintenance is already maintained because I understand my higher and lower self. This is how you connect things. This is how the shit connects. And you start being able to move and you know. I know that the same thought process and aspect of me needing a vehicle to get around or a vehicle to go here, here, and here All I got to do is apply the same knowledge and the same algorithms that I did in understanding my lower self. Once my lower self is maintained, anything that I need on a lower level can be brought down. And then the only thing I'm looking back is like, damn, I did that shit. It's like me sitting here on a Monday morning after I do meditate and elevate, and I start working on music. If I didn't work on it Sunday at the Papalucci Sunday service, ain't no shameless plugs. And I sit there and do that, and I'm sitting there working on the beat, and then I go to sleep, go to the dream world, and then the beat sounds so fucking live in my head because it's still playing in my head. Then I wake up in the morning, and I hit that key on the laptop, boom, and the beat play, and I got my headphones on. I'm like, that was the vibe I was looking for. This is this week's episode. This is what I'm going to, let me see what I got to research to validate to have that bibliography behind what I'm about to put out. So if somebody tries to, there's no holes in my shit. That's confidence. There's no holes in my shit. There's nothing that can be, because if there's holes in my shit, that means someone can shoot tethers through my shit to connect to me, to get me emotionally imbalanced, to get me upset. There's no imbalances or insecurities or doubts within me when I make my move. So when I'm moving, naturally outside of me, what is intensified is what's inside of me. The enemy that's within you is the enemy that's outside of you. There's no enemy within me. There's no imbalance. I'm working on those imbalances. I work on the imbalances every single day, maintaining and stabilizing them and learning them. So when I'm moving around and out and about, I ain't got to worry about shit getting to me. Because I can make the conscious decision if I'm going to go, yeah, I'm going to go over there for a little bit. Nah, it ain't worth my time. Everything you need is right in front of you. You want to be the best. You want to be a true queen. You want to be a true king. You want to be a god. You want to be the goddess, the titan, the alchemist, the best witch, the best warlock, the best shaman that you want to be. Everything you're going to need, going to show up in front of you to challenge you to be the best of what you need to be. Because you have to let go of the old mentalities that led you. The old mentalities that once guided you no longer can guide you, but to the same shit. Stepping outside of the space that fostered your identity. You can't get in balance until you do that, until you're willing to do that. It isn't the thought process of, I could say something like a threesome. In my mind is already the visualization of understanding that why I can't do it, why I won't do it at this point in time. Because at a point in time on the lower frequency days, I already did it. And the benefit I got from it wasn't fulfilling only before that moment. Now, since I'm open to the thought process of what a threesome is three energies coming together, I can apply the same mechanics of what a threesome is on higher levels and higher nodes, higher than when I'm going into the alchemy of tantric. The interface of me having Anpu on my altar and having Basset on the other side of the altar right now. When I interface with that energy, I'm having a threesome with the masculine and the feminine, the masculine and the feminine aspects. I'm having a threesome. I'm having a tantric ritual with these three energies and interfacing with them. So when I go into the dream world and motherfuckers talk about, let's talk to Oshun and pray, the way that motherfuckers interact with Oshun on that worship shit, I don't worship anything but my queen. That's the only thing that I worship, period. It's the only thing I'm ever going to worship, period. So taking that aspect, when I interface with that energy on a higher level, when I interact with Oshun, I'm either becoming Shango or becoming whatever entity I need. I want it to connect to make that energy to create that rhythm, that algorithm for me to use down here in a physical sense. So I'm becoming the energy. So I don't have to say, we got to follow the laws of my yacht, because I am the laws of my yacht. I have not stolen. I can recite all 42 laws because I realized that those 42 laws of my yacht were based on releasing from my humanity. That's the interfacing. So you become Mayat when you can say to yourself and realize that humanity, your aspect of your identity and your ego, was the ones that were the aspects that did those things. I don't have to say we got to follow the laws of Ptah, because I've become the laws of Ptah. I've become the laws of Thoth. I've become the principles of Osiris. I've become the principles of Isis. I've become all of those principles. That I've interfaced with those principles, so I became those principles. Because until then, you'll say some shit like Osiris in text was already represented as the woman, was regarded as the feminine principle. That's why some of the stuff that you can't control your urges is because you're not in tune with your feminine principle. If you cannot go into a space and look at a shorty that wants to teach you something or do something for you, and you only can look at her, you're not that person being on a higher level than you, your truth is gonna come out. Regardless, you ain't even gotta fight it. Your truth always gonna come out around someone that's at a higher level than you. Your truth is gonna come out because that's the only thing that you can show. They're showing you their truth, what they are at that level. So therefore, every time you approach them, you only can show them what you believe that you are. Until you can control your urge, you cannot learn what more that you can learn at that level. All you'll be able to project is lower level shit. This gets into the aspect of some motherfuckers that ain't right for certain motherfuckers. Certain people are they're just not right. They're just not ready. They're just not what they're supposed to be. No, they're not. And you got to accept that shit. Rihanna could come in here right now, booty ball fucking naked, right the fuck now, and just stand right here. I'll look at her, of course. It's a beautiful queen standing in front of me. But the aspect of the urge to jump her bones, as old heads say, would not be there with it. It's not conducive to me. The reason it's not conducive to me because since I'm in a level of higher intelligence of myself and I require that stimulation based on that higher intelligence of myself, that looks like nothing but another body to me. I can create that body in my mind and have sex with it and interface with it in my fucking mind all day. I can visualize having sex with Rihanna all fucking day. But within my mind, my perception, I've created a space for her to be exactly what I need her to be in order for me to subdue to that aspect, to interface with it. We're stepping out of the mundane level of what sex is, and we're going into the aspect of Tantra, understanding that alchemy is nothing but interfacing with your own energy. There is nothing just like there's no Jesus in the sky, there is no Oshun in the fucking sky. This is based upon going higher. The longer that you say there's something outside of you, the longer you're going to be wishing something outside of you is going to come help you. I don't have to wish or hope for anything outside of me to help me because I'm generating from within. I've been generating so long that I'm starting to actually implement this shit and it's starting to come in the physical plane. What's needed at that point in time. Even thoughts that are long gone and forgot, The aspect of you understanding something and coming into, you know, when it's no longer data and it's information and it's coming from your knowing because you forgot why you did it in the first place. I remember when I first acquired my and my eye. And I remember when I put them on, and I remember what they stood for. And I remember every day I went through the ritual of putting on my first two gold pieces. I remember I went through the whole ritual. I created that ritual in my mind. I put on my life. I put on my eye to be able to see. I went through that whole ritual. Now I just put it on without, it's implanted in my mind. So every time I put it on, it's naturally activated. This is how you activate your energy and start working with your own energy. So I understand that aspect. So then I went further and I went and got my obsidian beads, my black obsidian beads. I went and got my chakra beads that have the obsidian stones in it and the crystals in it. I went and got these pieces and I played that same mechanics to everything that I was doing. I was interfacing myself with my energy. So as I invoke my energy, these pieces are evoked with, these are the enhancements that are holding my energy. I broke that down when I was talking about on, I don't know if it was in a lecture, if I said it on a podcast, but I remember when I said I took a picture of myself outside of my job and the light shined on top of me. And when I took the picture, I saw my tail in my picture. I saw my tail and I saw my wings and I saw my horns when I turned to the side. I've taken many pictures when I've seen my horns. I've taken many pictures when I've seen my wings. I've seen many pictures when I've seen a tail, all within the picture, within the shadow. That's how I knew my spirit was getting stronger, because I could start seeing myself. I could start seeing myself on the physical level. I started seeing the monster, but I was comfortable with the monster, so I could see it. I was humble to my heart to see what I needed to see, so it comes to me. I don't have to brag about anything. It's not for anybody else to see. I don't have to be like, you just gotta wait to see it to believe it. They may never see it. Since I'm outside of that paradigm of, damn, they have to see it for me to believe it. It's like telling yourself over and over and over again that you're beautiful. And then as you're telling yourself that you're beautiful, you're great, all of the negatives come to the surface. Everything that you need to work on to truly interface with you being what you are is going to come to the surface. As it's coming to the surface, as your truest self is coming to the surface, the things that are no longer feasible to your energy, you'll start seeing the reason that they were there in the first place. Until you see that in yourself, you cannot see what is in others. Why you get in your feelings? I remember I used to have a whole thought process for myself. Have whole thought process and have whole questions to myself about why this wasn't working and why this wasn't happening, because I was in the same as that fucking space. How can anything new come into a space if I'm in the same space? I remember before I moved from my cousin, I was once at my cousin crib and I was over between my mom and my cousin crib doing what I needed to do over there in that space. It wasn't until I came to a new space where I was able to open up more and be more of myself in that new space. So what do you think is happening now? The fact that you're going into a new energy requires a new space and new filters and that new conduits to sustain that space. That was the aspect of us understanding why we locked our hair, why we didn't cut our hair, why we locked our hair, why we wore the beard. All these things were broken down into fundamentals that were used to sustain the binding within that space. Because this energy, your energy, the way energy has been broken down to this fundamental level of worship, that's on the aspect of feeding that space and giving that external something external its energy. So when I interface with energy, it's like I laugh when somebody sits there and they'll sit there and tell me, they'll be like, don't fuck with that over. I remember I was reading a book on voodoo and what's the name of the book? Voodoo and herbs. Voodoo and Herbs by Catherine. Her last name starts with a Y. Great book. I remember I was reading the book. I was reading it at my job one day, and we have one of them Sambo niggas work there. Little effeminate, little gay, little Sambo nigga work there. He was like, "You be reading them books on the black arts? You know, that's black magic." In my mind, I'm like, yes, nigga, it's black magic. And the fundamental sounding I'm black, so it has to be talking about me. Didn't say that out loud to him. What I said out loud to him was, yeah, you be doing all that voodoo shit? He was already, based on his perception, he was projecting what he already thought. So I allowed him to speak. You be doing all that shit? Oh, you one crazy motherfucker. I gotta stay away from you. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. The sitting there didn't say shit. The energy naturally, the spirit naturally did what it's supposed to do. Made that nigga anxious, made that nigga scared. It showed his truth. And I didn't have to do shit. I just operated accordingly and went back to reading my book. I was on like page 15. I think I was reading on fucking, I was just reading basic shit. When you start doing this in your everyday life, you realize that you ain't got to react to every fucking thing. Let that shit fall the way it need to fall by itself. I don't have to react to anything. I can just sit back and let it do what it does. Feed from the energy. Because I'm in total comfort. And my total comfort in chaos makes them uncomfortable in chaos. That's how you feed from the chaos. That's how you feed from these motherfuckers' energies. That's why when Mercury retrograde happened, they're talking about you might end up talking to somebody that you ain't talked to in years. You might have this feeling, or you may have this thought. That's a program into your mind of saying, okay, cool, that's going to be the thought I'm going to be under. So if this happens, then that happens. That's the same thought process of being under your fucking zodiac. 1 second. Thank God you can see me over that box off camera. But yeah, taking that aspect into that reality of myself, if I'm stuck on the fundamental of my cardinal sign being Aquarius, and I'm stuck under the cardinal sign of Aquarius and everything that an Aquarius is, and trying to promote and live within that space of itself. Go back. As I'm studying into the space of myself, I would never be able to look at my natal chart and understand why my North Node is in Gemini and the aspect of what a Gemini is, and understand why my South Node is in Sagittarius. I wouldn't have the entire picture. I would only have one pixel or I would only have one spectrum of light, that 1% of the spectrum of light I can see across the board. So my perception is within whenever I'm doing something based on leadership, changing and evolving and evoking certain energy, and I'm speaking at a certain level, when I'm doing like this is me and my Gemini energy. But me standing on my square, that's based upon my Sagittarius energy. Me being in that Sagittarius, my South Node. In the overall interface of not being restricted, that's what is the cardinal part, or my aspects of my being an Aquarius, being intuitive, being of higher intelligence, being of not being a restriction, being quite rebellious, those understanding that understanding the entire interface of myself allows me to project from those different angles of light and bring them to the center of myself and then promote and project. So if your mind is stuck in being oppressed, everything you do will be stuck under oppression. So if my mind was fundamentally under oppression, this is how that shit connects. My mind stuck under oppression, then I'll be oppressed to my sign. I will only be oppressed to be in the zodiac. So if anybody brought me any information like, have you ever studied your natal chart? Nah, what's that? That's the study of that's your birth chart, your placement of the planets and everything that was aligned. Your tree of life, that where you link at in the tree of life. Your natal chart interfaces with the tree of life. The only way to understand your tree of life is getting to that knowledge, is understanding the reflection. Your south node, your north node, your natal chart is your tree of life. That's the interface that you put on top of your tree of life. Take your natal chart and sit on top of it. Grab a Kabbalistic text or a Kabbalistic picture and put your natal chart over the top. And I can guarantee you that is your roadmap to getting through life. That takes you having to kill your identity to get to the death. So if you're projecting just based off of your cardinal sign, your sun sign, you fall into the spookism of it. You fall into the spookism. Someone can put up that picture as I open up my plant-based Cheez-Its. I don't even think if I wasn't plant-based it just works for me. There's just certain things that even if I wasn't plant-based, I would not go back to. Like these are like 3,000 times better than regular Cheez-Its. They don't have that funny ass aftertaste. They don't leave that coating on the top of my tongue. They don't do certain shit that Cheez-Its do. That salty flavor, or if you get like Cheez-Its or cheese nips and all that, I get everything I want to taste and need. But anyway, back to what we were saying. You projecting from your level of space where you're at right now. You're coming into the sense of shit is going to be faltering and falling apart around you. As we said earlier. Things are going to be falling apart and faltering down and falling down. As you're going down the rabbit hole, everything you took down there with you during that fall, that's the first shit you're going to have to look at. So if you took your identity, if you took humanity with you down the rabbit hole unconsciously, as you were going into your awakening states, those are the first things that you're going to have to battle. Most of us do that shit unconsciously anyway. So we never learn how to interface with our true energy because we don't have the confidence in being able to stand behind it. It's not that you're saying it to prove anything to anybody else. It's like similar to my name. I am now Papa Lucy. That's me. To my mother, I'm my middle name and my birth name. To certain friends, I'm under Carlos. And certain friends, I'm under certain aspects. Me choosing or me interfacing with that energy, the Papa Legba, the Baron Samni, Lucifer, those energies and the higher aspects of energy, going back to that more primordial of myself, that's how Papa Lucy came. If somebody's to address me by my old names, because I have many names, Little Horn, God of Partition. I was thinking about fucking Constantine. You can summon me by any name that you want. And you will get the energy of the interface of dealing with me at that level. That's the aspect behind the whole name. So me going into certain spaces under a name that's no longer serves a purpose to summon me by, I don't go. You must accept me. You must call me by my name, or I shall not answer. I shall not serve purpose if you do not call me by my name. It took a lot of confidence and a lot of works in myself to be able to do that. But since I now have that ability and I understand that, I know that from this level, I'm projecting the same exact space from whoever called me, whatever they call me. I'm still projecting from this space. That's the way that they are able to see me. Because that's who they see me as. That's who they know of me at this point. To get to know me, they have to first accept the new name, the new energy, to be able to interface with me. They must become open and vulnerable to that new projection of that light. And that takes work with on their side. I just planted the seed, put the light bulb in. I just let it burn. I'm 100 watts everywhere I go. This is the aspect of you coming into your reality of bringing. This takes you out of that aspect of truly living spiritually. Living spiritually is constantly stimulating your genius to stimulate new intelligence. Because at every given moment, I love how sharp my nails are. At every given moment that I speak at this level and move at this level, I find a different way and a different aspect and a way to teach it at the different levels that I need to teach it. To an initiate, to an adept, to a beginner, to a non-voice God, I know how to speak to all of them. And I speak that through the same, I can speak that if I have to separate it and speak to this person this way, I can speak to this person this way. I can speak to everybody in a way that makes them feel inherently uncomfortable, but they're comfortable. They're now in a sense of, they're in a sense of offense so they can absorb it. They're not in a sense of defense. They're in a sense of offense, and offense is automatically chaos. Yes, offense is automatically chaos. Love is automatically, that's why love is automatically chaos. These aspects become automatically chaos because they're not in a neutral setting. Fear is going to be in a natural neutral setting because it performs a mode of stasis. You're frozen in fear. So you're stuck in that aspect. So when people start looking at these levels on these certain aspects of themselves, they realize that they're stuck within the fear. You're in the fear of what somebody's going to see you as when you walk outside. You're in the fear of how somebody's going to react to you doing certain things. 6 years ago, you would not have seen me from my site, my Baphomet shirt with the sigil of Lucifer on the front of my shirt. About 6 years ago, you wouldn't have seen me walk around comfortably in this shirt. But I'm comfortable in wearing myself. I put up a post, I feel real goatish right now. Because I'm comfortable within myself. I'm comfortable within my space of me. So everything that comes around me that is naturally in discomfort, it's not my job to change their perception of discomfort. It's only my job it becomes my job to still project from my truth. That way in return, they project their truth. And that's the chaos. That comes into that chaos sphere. What they're scared of, what I know, it comes into this space. It does what it's supposed to do. Either it's going to implode, meaning I stepped away or they stepped away, or it's going to interface and it's going to give them the perception of their reality for where they need at that level. That seed has been planted. That seed has long been planted, and we went through the phases. That's why 2020 or 2012, however you want to look at it, 2012 is the ending of this level, and 2020 is the hindsight into the new vision of the spiritual level. That's the shift. Everything you're seeing is based on a spiritual content. The first marker of that is when you saw Barack come into office and Michelle come into office, and Michelle was the first black female in the White House that actually did something, that stood in front of the camera and stood in front of the camera and stood at the podium and challenged every paradigm that was usually taught under the old patriarchy, that the woman is supposed to sit still and not say anything. That's why the first thing when you first saw, whenever they showed you, whatever that white woman preacher name is, whatever her name is, I don't even know the bitch names. But whenever you saw her, it didn't have an effect because she was still speaking from the same fundamentals. So when you see black women as attorneys and black women as congresswomen and black women as mayors, and it has an aspect of seeing you can it's coming from a spiritual aspect, a spiritual perspective, not from a physical perspective. Look, see, they're changing. They let black people become leaders in parliaments and shit. And when you start looking at these people, they're so far detached from reality that they have no possible understanding of your plight, because your plight they don't even, it's not that they don't accept your plight, it's this that plight, they understand intellectually that at the level that they're at, plight doesn't exist. So we have to get into that mindset of understanding the plight doesn't exist. The only way the plight, the struggle, the slavery and all this shit exists is if you believe it exists. So you looking at the intellectual level, when a white person tells you to forget about slavery, your natural defense is to say, buck anything the white man tells me I'm gonna go against. You naturally fall into the projection of, nigga, yeah, we were slaves. So you speak it. You're the only one that has the power to speak shit into existence. So as long as you speak slavery existed and you don't understand what slavery was and what the fundamentals of what slavery was, it still exists. For every time a white person says, I'm not racist, not all white people are racist, and you make the argument that I'm not saying all white people are racist, I'm just saying you automatically go into a docile. I'm not saying all white people are racist, but based on the history, I got to go off history. So you sustain yourself to the fundamentals of history, of time. You don't know how detrimental speaking you don't understand the power of the fucking spell because you don't understand the detriment of you agreeing to it. A spell is nothing more than an agreement based on an intention. The ritual is to create the visualization of said agreement to said agreement. So if I sit here and I speak and I say, yeah, white people are bad, then of course I'm going to see not all white people behaving badly. That's just like if I walk into a space and I say, not all niggas wear J's, and then next week I go into a space and I see niggas wearing Vans, Converses, and LeBrons and other fucking sneakers because I said not all black people wear J's. Because now I have to look for something you're looking for something to project to stabilize your argument. That's the aspect of this is where we get stuck at a lot of times. We're looking for something to sustain our argument so we can further feed from it. Well, if this happens like this, and then maybe this can happen, and then I'll be able to do this. Sustaining your argument, because now you get stuck in the argument. You get stuck in the polarity, not really wanting to go outside of that space of yourself to, I got to go do this because that makes more sense. This is the aspect of you getting stuck within yourself, getting stuck in your feelings, getting stuck in your own head. You get stuck in the labyrinth that you already created in your mind. You get stuck in the feelings and the burdens of your heart. You get stuck in the survival mode in your root chakra. You get stuck in a power struggle in your solar plexus. You get stuck in a pleasure and a pain in your sacral chakra. And then when you start speaking, it sounds broken. You can't speak strongly enough. You only can speak strongly based on the negative anatones. You only can speak strongly based on the negative algorithms. So you only can see and start to envision and take into that knowing into your third eye based upon that same exact trend. Because your energy is projecting from intellectual and not intelligence. When that intelligence hits you and it comes down and it hits that heart and it makes the portal and it goes through and does what it needs to do inside your body, you have a much more fulfilling, different effect because it's going to show its truth. You want truth, you're going to see truth, but you have to see the truth within yourself first in order to project such a spell. So it's needed. And then once you start realizing that you're projecting it yourself, you start realizing why you don't have to give it any attention. I don't have to give racism attention because in my mind, racism is needed. Putting your race first. White supremacy is an inferiority complex. So it doesn't serve me. Anything that's inferior doesn't serve me. Me going further into understanding white, the definition of white and the definition of black have been switched. So every time they're talking about white supremacy, when I get to that aspect of becoming the light, it goes from being inferior, it's inferior intellectual bullshit. So I can treat it as such. I can read from any book. Nothing can stop me from looking through the glass that someone to say, I don't read that book because it was written by a white man. It wasn't written by one of us, so I don't acknowledge it. Okay. More for me. That's the aspect of what we're coming into. That shit should make you laugh. When someone says something along those lines, along that nature, it should make you laugh. Damn, you really gonna allow? Because it becomes fundamental gibberish when someone says it, because you're sitting there like, wow, you gonna let the name on that book stop you from getting some good information? Think about how that sets up in your life. You allow one aspect of something not happening the way you wanted it to happen, like a spoiled child. So you put that thought process into your mind, so you don't want it to happen because it's not happening the way you want it to happen. It's not going according to the thought that you had how it should work. That's how you shut yourself down. That's how you further lock yourself down into this space. So you never truly learn anything. You never truly study anything. You read just enough to get your point across, and then you fabricate everything around it to make it work. Because you're afraid that if somebody can bring some new information, a new light to the table, your light dims. The light that's on you dims. I ain't got to worry about the light dimming on me. The light can bend off on me in the fucking physical shit because I work with my own energy. So I can constantly keep putting out no matter what happens. We've done that shit unconsciously for fucking decades. One light got turned out, civil rights movement came, Black Wall Streets came. The light got turned out back in the times of when Kemet was coming. We were coming to the aspect of the monumental Egypt and the monumental Kemet. And then we built the fucking monuments. And as we wrote it down, as the light for our ability to be able to just think and project the thought like this. I can just sit here and project the thought. That ability got shut down. We started writing it down. Everything came down to a decline, but now everything's back on the rise. You have to understand that through that decline, that's where all the information was brought into that aspect. So you're not getting stuck. You're no longer stuck on Earth. You already understand when you go into any book on astral projection, astral travel, and building your astral world. I got a couple of books that I have on my on the website on a blog. You're realizing that you're more than the space that you're in. As you start realizing that you're more than the space that you're in, you start venturing out for something else that's going to fulfill you and fit the space that you're in. You want to project from a different space. You start coming out of your comfort zone. You start traveling into places that you wouldn't travel into before. That's where the true intelligence is. It's where you haven't gone. You can't learn from the space that you used to go. You can't learn from the new space, the space that you used to go into, because you're going to keep getting the same fucking shit. It's going to be under the disguise of something new happened. That's why the promotions at restaurants are the way they are. That's why promotions at restaurants are the way they are. Cell phone commercials do what they do. All of these programs are sustaining the illusion of change. They're projecting change based on your perspective of needing something at this level. I wish I could talk to my friends via video chat. How can I talk to my friends but not be in the same space as them? Oh, damn, we can do it on YouTube, do Zoom. And now it's been brought all the way down, and they make you see it right in front of you. And now they have one Microsoft Works has a new program where you can have your meetings. That shit's already been there. All this is doing at this point in stasis is showing you what's already been there. Everything's in a decline to show you what's already been there. Trump coming into office didn't change shit. It just brought everything to the forefront. What are you learning from it? Like, damn, this shit been like this. It didn't just happen overnight. But you getting so stuck in sentimental values, Trump need to get out of office because that's where all the racist white people are coming from. Nigga, they've been that way. They just now have something in front of them that they can actually stand on their square. How do you learn how to benefit from the energy? By standing on your square. But nah, man, we need to be with love. The aspect of love that you're thinking on this mundane level is infatuation. You feel that if you're standing on your square and your truth, they're standing on their square and their truth, and you guys are binded under the religion that is America, you feel like that's what's needed. We just need to partner up. And then that's when you're going to see stupid shit like, nigga, one dude got on I saw the picture, I saw that like a long ass time ago, but you got the white dude wearing my nigga on his shirt, and he got an arrow pointing to his boy, and the dude got my redneck on his shirt, and this point to the white guy. That's when you're going to see stupid shit like that. That's your perception and your projection of what you think needs to happen. Then that's what's going to happen. Realizing your power is the key. Realizing your power to project everything that you think is the major key. But in order to break away from the paradigm, in order for your shit to come into physical presence, you have to change the space that you're in mentally. It all starts in your mind. Once you understand that aspect and you embrace these aspects, this is when you're able to start moving forward unscathed in spiritual manner, unscathed in a mental manner. You may fall, you may scrape yourself, like cut your arm off, cut off a finger, or whatever it may be, doing what you need to do, but it won't stop you from your mission, your purpose. The more humble you are to it, the more unstoppable you become. You'll start seeing the miraculous miracles that you perform on yourself through understanding that through your mind you can heal yourself. But the only way to be able to heal yourself is to have the components within you engaged for you to heal yourself. The only way to become wealthy and abundant, you must have the wealth and abundance within you. They gave you subjective thought. They gave you the thought of reincarnation. Every religious text that they use on an exoteric standpoint is telling you about reincarnating here. That's the exoteric or the external standpoint of it, is coming back here. Bringing your heaven right here? You mean I got to do this with my white Jesus money? Why they have their heaven right here? Why they have this right here? My heaven is right here. My heaven is wherever I stand at until I transition. So everything that's needed to be, everything that makes my life my heaven is already around me. So I project my energy through everything that's around me because it's of my wavelength and of my frequency. Anything that can't catch the frequency or can't catch that wave is naturally going to drown in the current. Let it go. Let it go. You got to let that shit go. That's the main aspect, letting that shit go. Allowing it to fall off as it falls off. You don't see them putting the umbilical cord back on the baby after it's fell off. It can't go back off. It's sustained, got everything it needed from it, and it fell off. That aspect of you coming into yourself and you did things for certain reasons, the reasons that you're no longer committed to those reasons, therefore the things that sustain because of those reasons no longer needs to be in play. It's still going to do what it needs to do because it's stuck under the perception that you're always going to be in that space. You're always going to be one call away. You're always going to be one text message away, one email away, because it knows that, because it's still within inside you to be that. When you change that, it changes the entire retrospect of what you're doing in your life. Where as you invoke your energy, you're not putting it into these same old corridors. You got to become uncomfortable in order to embrace your energy and interface with your energy. Because if you're not, all you're doing is the same shit. And when things come to you new on the horizon, new opportunities present themselves. If your mindset's still in the old paradigm or in the same old perspectives or perceptions, then it's going to be shown to you in that perception. It's going to be magnified in that sense. I don't like people, but I have compassion for them. My compassion allows me to interact with them as I need to. But since I have compassion and I truly don't care, I have compassion for them, what they do and what that shit is in that area. I have the free will to remove myself if I need to. I can see signs. I can see what I need to see. But like, yeah, that ain't my cup of tea over there. I'm gonna stay over there. Changing your perception changes. You have to change your perception to gain access to the higher projections and the higher frequency. Or the fundamentals are still going to be sound with under the same space of that's bad, that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's evil, they're evil, they have a dark plot. What is darkness? What is evil? Find the definition. You change, you shift your thought, you shift your knowing. We understand that dark is simply the true light or where knowledge is. So by me saying if I was at this point and every time I say something dark, it still can be fed upon by the ones that I call dark, the ones that I call evil. The definition of what evil is I know is living or to live in that interpretation. Anything that I say is evil, I'm saying is living. I'm giving it the attention to live. I'm giving it the energy to live. But if I, as that camera turns off, but if I take my mindset and I shift it to take that attention away from that, it no longer exists. It no longer has power. It no longer can circumvent and keep me in a spellbound mindset or locked into that program of giving it life. There's people right now that I can like give the description of what they're doing right now at this very fucking moment because they've become predictable in the constraints of time. I can send them a call, send them a phone call, send them a text, and they're doing the same exact shit they were doing before. It doesn't give me any rhythm to, that's why I don't have a rhythm to call them or text to them because I know they'll be doing the same thing. That's why when people if I call or text somebody and someone asks me what I'm doing, it's usually either more of what I'm doing now or going deeper into it. It's always it's always going to be a conversation with me. It's always, you leave off the phone with me, you then learn something. That's the aspect of you understanding yourself in the love of myself. All I want is knowledge. So every time I'm having a conversation, I'm learning something from it. If there's nothing to learn from that conversation, then I'm not having it. I'm not speaking on that level. I'm changing out if anybody listened to the podcast this week in the mantra, I'm cleaning out my contacts because I'm no longer having conversations that lead to no purpose or no progress. I'm cleaning out my spaces. I'm cleaning out these spaces because I no longer fit this. That identity no longer fits me. I no longer underwear my divinity. All of these aspects of program, when I program into that mantra that sets that tone for, it's not going to be a feel good. You're going to have the feel good feeling because your soul is now breathing. But naturally, the aspect in the physical realm, everything outside of you is going to shift. You have to be comfortable with that shift. You have to be comfortable with that destruction. You have to be comfortable with that hatred. You have to get comfortable with that shit. Because that's the only way you can balance out true love, and true hate. The true love is understanding that you got to go through the hatred and the fear first. That's what every text, every mythos tells us. And that's based on the philosophy of told into us, put into the form of a story to resonate with something deeper within inside you to build the visualization. But if your mind is only programmed on one set of programs, then of course you can't visualize anything new. You're only going to see, what you believe to be scary or to be dark or to be evil. That's what you're going to see it as. The only face you're going to see is the face that has been put in front of you. Not realizing that you've been in control this entire time. You've been in control this entire time. And I said that before under Rings of Morality. There's something else on the other side of what you fear the most, and that's yourself. More understanding into your true self, into your true purpose. Past that wall of past that ceiling of where the demiurge and the archon created that dome to paint out the pictures in front of you. But once you've pierced that, there's no coming back to this and making it. There's no coming back to this to make this make sense. All this makes sense to me, therefore it's obsolete. When something makes sense to you, it becomes obsolete. You have become it. Now it's time to go to the next level. That's why I said, like, in order to defeat racism, you got to become a racist. But you got to understand the context of what being a racist is. In order to defeat the white supremacy module, you got to understand how inferior it is. In order to become, you got to understand the inferior of the intellectual aspect in order to generate the new intelligence on top of that. To create from that space. That way, whenever someone yells out something about white supremacy, racism, any of that, I'm feeding from that shit because I understand they're under the dome. I'm above the dome. So everything that's projected only can hit that dome. And the only thing that can absorb it at that higher level has to understand where it's standing at. That's the aspect of feeding from everywhere that you're at. That's the aspect of untangling from humanity, the roots of humanity, to understand the strength of your own roots. They subject you to the thought process of you're from Africa, so you get stuck on everything Africa. When you realize that you are everything, you are everywhere. That's what you embrace. So the same way I move here is the same way I would move anywhere I go, because I realize that I stand above that. There was a crazy that I'm about to say this. I remember when I was a church going lad, and I very rarely went. I usually went to just impress somebody. And I remember when the pastor was having a conversation, he was talking about walking above the physical world because you're untouchable. In the hands of God, when you're in the body of God, you walk above it. I was like, damn. I remember later on that year, 2 years later, I found I read like one of my first books on metaphysics. And what he said came from that book. The exact lines of what he said, and he paraphrased, was in that book. So it made me understand that I had to be at that point to understand the point that I'm at now. And points that I'm at now. You had to go through that shit over there in order to be at the point you at now. But it didn't make you weaker, or did it make you stronger? It made you stronger inherently because you went through it. Oh, damn. I was going to like that earlier. That's what I was trying to look for. Like that. 1 second. Then we don't get into that question and answer period. Got questions? Drop them over there into the comment screen. And when I get back from the bathroom, my last bathroom break, we're getting to that question and answer now. We'll wrap this up. Start wrapping it up. As we sit back down on our seat and throne, I was playing with my microphone earlier, and like it was my first time actually like using a microphone, like to this level of my own, and like just the whole overall vibe, energy of that being there, it just shifts the aspect of this speaking. But yes, what was I on? Yeah, I actually wrote something down, a few aspects that I wanted to touch on. In order for me to touch on it, you got to go back into the good old Facebook. One thing that I have noticed, that we hate being behind. And that was kind of the reason why I dropped off the second level of what you call it. When I go down my Facebook page, Yeah. Well, I can't find it right now. But yes, the mindset of you coming into your higher self is you're going to stop. You need to stop letting the things that are behind you and are long gone, they no longer resonate with you on any level. Stop letting them affect your greatness at all costs. We have to stop allowing the things that were behind our mindsets and the mentality that are behind us, beneath us, no longer sustaining to us, to keep us off of our nexus point of what's in front of us that is only greatness. If we're not doing this, then we cannot project ourselves as we fit to be seeing ourselves. You cannot project yourself from the perception of being a slave and being oppressed and then saying you are a king or a ruler. But you must first understand the aspects of the trauma to come into, you must understand the aspect of the trauma to come into the understanding of the trigger, to understand that you're standing only in front of it. That's the not the in between that is the knowledge and the death of your old self to put your new light. Because when you start doing this, you start projecting yourself in that manner. I remember, no lie, it was like last year. I used to get off work, and where I stayed at, it was like one of the little, it was like a food mart down the street from me where I used to stay at when I was, me and my cousin had a place. Where I was staying at, every time I would get off, I would take my Uber, take my Lyft, get dropped off in front of the food mart because I would go in there and get my Black and Milds or my orange juice or whatever I was getting. And I walked to the house. I remember every time I would get off, my dreads would be up when I would be at work. I didn't like wearing hats, so I just kept my dreads in a bun. And I would drop my dreads down, I had my hoodie on, and I walk in. And every time I would walk out, somebody would always ask me, yo, you got that green? And then I remember I would sit there and be thinking about, I was walking on the way home, but like, I guess I fit the description because I got dreads and I'm black. So their basic perception based on their level of light is what they perceive me to be as. I'll say, nah, I ain't got none. I don't even smoke. Damn, you just look like you were avid. What they see at the top of their intellectual, the intellectual ceiling is what they perceive everything else to be. So they project that within their life. When they're in search for something, that's what they project. So some of the things that we get stuck on being seen as or being known as based on our identity is simply somebody else's perspective. If I was around the same people that I was around even 2 years ago in certain aspects that had doubts in themselves and no confidence in themselves, if I was around them, I wouldn't be able to project the confidence that I have within myself to do what I'm doing now. It would seem like, and it couldn't be seen as a reality. I can't see myself doing that, man. You crazy. And people pay you for that. And people do this and do this because their mindset is stuck on the mundane. Their mindset is stuck on the lower levels of getting paid for something, or you have to do something to get paid. You have to do something to get this. My mindset's not stuck within that. So my mindset's not stuck within those crates, those bags. Everything that naturally comes to me is of natural abundance, natural wealth, natural prosperity, natural everything. I'm in natural alignment with everything that I need. I'm in natural alignment with everything that makes me what I am now. But yeah, questions, comments, and whatnot. Drop them in as we finishing it out. This week's podcast, if you've not turned into it yet, got our podcast available on multiple platforms. Of course, since I had to do a new feed, I gotta put the new description. I'll put that in the description of this video, of this lecture. This week's episode was baggage claim. Got into a lot of deep aspects that we got into tonight. I preface from that, from baggage claim. Also had the first interview on there. If you are interested, if your soul is speaking for you to have new services to further unlock yourself and get into that, start that process or continue a process or further along in the process, for the services, bookings, inquiries, classes, all of those things are under God Occult Alchemist, LLC.com. That's the email. That is the website. Setcarlonegus at gmail.com for questions. Papa Lucy 666. That's 666. That's 3 6s as in the number. That's for drop an email in there. The number is 910-777-7708. Also lock that number in, because when I'm moving into the next phase of the live podcast / radio show imprint to get more of that live effect for interviews, that'll more likely be the number that I use for people to call in when they have questions and comments, or they want to say something and they want to ask a question on live on the show or on the podcast. We answer it live and direct. Occult Alchemy for prints and all the shirts available. I got a couple of new prints on there for the queens. I have the t-shirt dresses on there. I got one with Kali on there. I got a Kali print. I got the Tree of Knowledge print. I got a Cosmic Energy print. Those are on there. These shirts, if anybody seen me out and about or seen the post on I got the Trippy God or the Trippy Shaman shirt on there. I'm waiting on my shoes to get here. I got a couple of different shoe prints on the site. Occult Alchemy at myshopify.com for all that gear on there. And of course, Lucifer Somni is my Cash App link. $ Lucifer Somni, all one continuous word. $ capital LUCIFER capital SAMDEI. Appreciate those donations and showing that support, because that helps me do what I do best, and that's put out the information and continue circulating, putting out this information as I receive it with a freer conscience and a freer mind. But yeah, support and donate. Copper shirt, show your support and donation on that via the podcast. You can become a monthly patron on there. The website, God Occult Alchemist, LLC.com. That's for all the services. A lot more coming soon, from in-depth classes that expand past going deeper into visualization, deeper into guided meditations and mantras, creating your mantra, setting your intentions. I teach all that. All that's in there. Schedule your initial consultation. Spend that $30. Well worth it. I've had many people tell me, yo, that's like the easy. I thought it would have been the hardest $30 that they spent, but it's been the easiest $30 that they spent based on that level of information that you get in the initial breakdown, that hour conversation that we have on breaking shit down. I've been told that as a very impactful conversation with people. I'm humble to that I'm able to be that beacon for them on that. And just, as always, changing your perception, how you view things, is automatically going to change how things are projected in front of you. When you speak that you great, and in your mind you used to not be great, all the things that make you not great are going to show themselves first. But they're to teach you how to be great. Learn and unlearn and relearn. Check the what you call it real quick. Big yip, yeah. That was it. As my phone updates itself, I would have read the questions that are on there. I'm sorry I cannot get to the questions that were presented to me earlier. My phone just went through its update stage. But yeah, stay tuned for Sunday. If you're familiar with my Facebook page, Papa Lucy Sunday Service, we're going to get into angles of light. If you are familiar with the first angles of light, I did it via my first live, one of my first lives when I was building up to starting the YouTube channel. That's in the uploaded videos on this page. Look at that angles of light. We're gonna get deeper into the angles of light and understand what the angles of light are. And I'm gonna go deeper into it. Papa Lucy Sunday Service, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via my Facebook page, Papa Lucy Sunday Service. You'll also be able to see it on my regular page, setcarlonegus. And of course, Monday through Thursday, we do that 7:45 a.m. meditate and elevate, giving you that shit to stimulate that thought as you clearing your space for the day, because only one day matters, and that's today. Only one person matters, and that's yourself, because everything's a reflection of this day and yourself. But yeah. I'm going to finish my Diesel Puff CBD. If anybody's ever wondered. Yeah. This is my Doughboy right here. My Doughboy hybrid. This is sativa and indica, so I'm chilled and amped at the same exact time. But yeah, I love y'all. We love us. I see y'all next week. Yeah, I'll see y'all next week. Love y'all. Peace.